Amick from The Athletic. And, of course, Sam is being brought to you by all your Jiffy Lube locations in your greater Sacramento area. Sam, where are you today?
Good morning, Jay Ross, from beautiful Los Angeles, the hotel life. This is not the most exciting YouTube shot that I've given you, but here we are. Yeah, I was here for the Sixers circus. I was in Phoenix with them a couple nights ago. Obviously did not know going into this road trip that Joel Embiid, would have the issues that he had, and so that was the intent. And then the Paul George reunion game last night, and my first time at Intuit Dome. So here we are.
Yeah, lots of questions I'm going to have for you regarding that. First off, I do want to tell you that Dave told me to tell you hello. He says hi, and he was really anxious to talk to you today. He had to head out today, but I know you had a response to his wanting to shut down the locker room for reporters.
I did. I know. I have to admit and confess that I play this card with both of you guys, where just because you're nice enough to have me on the show once a week doesn't necessarily mean that I get editorial license the rest of the week when I'm listening to the show. But in this very hotel room yesterday, the flattering part is I do frequently turn on, you guys to get rolling in the morning in general, but when I'm on the road too. And I don't know how deep you want to go on it, Jay, but my point to Dave was, and this is obviously the context being Joel Embiid putting his hands on the Philadelphia Inquirer columnist Marcus Hayes, who wrote something that Joel was upset about. And I certainly think that, what Marcus wrote was in poor taste, and the fact that he apologized means that he wishes he could take it back. That happens in the business, but you just can't put your hands on media members. And, and the league obviously made its ruling, 3-game suspension. But as far as the locker room discussion, my point to Dave, respectfully, was, he painted this delusional picture of if we didn't have locker room access, what it might look like, and how all these things could be fixed so that you could get the media members out of the athlete space. And my thing was, first of all, this is a battle we've been fighting for years, because athletes, certainly, I think a lot of them would like to have us not be in the locker room. The dilemma is, I'm not sure how to break this down, but I told them that, if the fans want actual truth and storytelling about what's happening with their favorite teams and the players, then you need genuine interactions between media members and the people that we cover. And the locker room is really the only place where we get that, because once you take that away, everything becomes controlled, transactional. To be honest, a lot of times, with like a propaganda type feel, like, okay, we will give you this person because we know that you're going to talk about this topic, and that's going to make the organization look good. That's generally speaking how pro sports teams are going to function. So preserving that ecosystem, where uncomfortable though it might be at times, I've never seen a solution that makes sense to me. And my last thought real quick is, Dave, now being deep in the soccer world, I told him, like, if you take away the locker room, the next step is the way that soccer gets covered internationally in Europe, which is a lot more distance between the players and the media members. And honestly, a lot more tabloidy controversy, journalism, because, at least in some instances, because the reporters feel like they have, no other way to make an impact, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. And I know he had mentioned something like the podium, which I think we all get, and the podium is fine, but I'm going to get the same quote as you are, Sam, and you have more detailed, in-depth articles and pieces that are well-crafted and thought out, that I think your 5, 10, 15 minutes you get in a locker room or somewhere on the court or somewhere else where you've hustled to get that is going to be far deeper than just the general stuff that's said kind of into the controlled atmosphere, like you said, of a podium or some other team-related thing. So I'm glad we have it this way. And, the situation with Embiid is rare. It doesn't happen that often. And quite honestly, I think the league got it right. I mean, you can always argue the length of suspension, but I think they did a good job with this. You just can't do what Joel Embiid did.
Yeah, and I'm with you on the suspension. I think one game would concern me because, we know there's already tension between reporters and players. My concern would be that one game, if you're a player who already is anti-media and you have, moments of frustration, one game is enough for you to think about doing it. You know what? Let me sit for a game and put this guy on his ass, for lack of a better way of putting it. 3 games is a lot in today's NBA. I mean, Joel Embiid, I don't really care how much money he makes. It's as far as, overall, he's going to lose about $1 million, bucks. 3 games at 82 for a team that is scuffling. That's a major consequence. So I think they sent the message that you can't do that. And to your point, this is not locker room, but just yesterday, for example, at Sixers practice, the whole concept of genuine interactions. Like, I was trying to write about Paul George, and I wrote a column this morning, and Paul talked to the group in a controlled setting, but because it wasn't a podium and because there was a freedom to the practice environment, I was able to connect with him right afterwards, and I didn't quote him on anything. I just had a few informational questions about his situation, got a better understanding of his situation as a result of that, and was in a better position to write about his situation because of it. So that's the type of stuff that honestly, if we lost, I'm not trying to be dramatic. Like, I don't even know if I'd want to do the job anymore, because if you could sit at home on your couch and wax poetic with the same, press conference podium material as everybody else, then that's not really, what we do.
Yeah. Sam Amick joining us each and every Thursday, 8 o'clock here on Sactown Sports. Of course, brought to you by Jiffy Lube and the Jiffy Lube locations in the greater Sacramento area. Sam, I want to get a couple more thoughts on the actual thing you were covering down there in LA, the Sixers and the Clippers. I want to finish up with the Sixers first, because you said kind of the circus. So what did you learn there? Not only is the Embiid situation, which we're waiting for him to play, Paul George is now finally back. He gets booed last night. Just what's your take on where Philly is? Because I know where they want to go, and they're far from that right now.
Yeah, it's not pretty at all. First of all, just given the fact that we're on Sactown Sports, and you and I, in our history, it was fun. It's always fun to connect with. The Sixers have kind of a 6 degrees of Sacramento thing. They got Bobby Jackson, they got Brian Gates, Rico Hines, who I don't know well, but who's part of their staff as well. And so I saw Bobby yesterday and made fun of myself when I saw him. I was like, "Hey, Bob, you know how it is. Once a year, I come chase your circus for a couple days, because last time I saw him, I believe we were in Fort Collins, Colorado last year for training camp when the James Harden saga was going on. And so the Sixers have had something happening, of an unwelcome type for quite a while. So on this one, it's a mess. 1-6. Embiid won't get back until Tuesday, I think it is, against the Knicks. Last night was so interesting with the Paul George reunion game, because, and I wrote this, Jay, you think about all the criticism the Clippers took for losing Paul in general, but also losing Paul for nothing. And then you look at not only Philly, but Milwaukee as well. Philly and Milwaukee are both all in on 3-star plans that are very expensive, that created a lot of hype and had people thinking, myself included, that they could be title contenders. And then you see the downside of it if it doesn't work. And the Clippers, in essence, did not want to go all in on a 3-star plan. With Paul, they pulled back in negotiations in free agency. So, you would have had James Harden, Kawhi Leonard, and Paul George. And so now they lose Paul. And I think where I landed last night was that the Clippers are a flawed team that is going to win games, but not truly contend for the rest of Kawhi Leonard's time, in my opinion. But they have a whole lot more financial freedom and a brighter future than the Sixers do. Now, on the Philly side, I don't even know where to begin, man. It's ugly. And I'm just talking about team building. Joel's such a wonderful player, but it's just looking right now like a little bit like Giannis in Milwaukee, where my goodness, like December hasn't even hit yet, and there's already like legitimate reason to kind of speculate about, are they going to have to come off Joel down the road trade wise? What do they do here? Because this is a title or bust team. That's the way they were built, and if they're not in the running for that, then that's a huge problem.
How serious was he when it was kind of out there that he said he wasn't going to play back to back? I mean, he hasn't played yet, but we're talking about back to backs as this season goes on. Is that going to be a thing for him?
Yeah, I mean, what I've learned is the left knee situation, which honestly, Joel's a super, super private guy. And again, the comps between him and Kawhi Leonard are pretty remarkable. Both guys really private. So Joel essentially doesn't like the Sixers to be open about his health. And so, like, whatever's happening with his left knee, I'm fairly confident to say, like, it has a medical term that they just aren't sharing. I know for a fact they have player comps that they have studied where some of the player comps give them hope and optimism. And I'm talking about like other players who have dealt with a specific thing that Joel is with the left knee. Some of their player comps indicate that he's going to be okay, and it's something they can manage, for quite some time. There are other player comps that are more concerning. That alone tells you this is a specific physical thing that has to be managed. So, in regards to your question about back-to-backs, the mistake they made was publicly signaling, we're going to have to manage this and not, have him play back-to-backs, but then also saying that he was doing well, basically saying that he was healthy. And that is done because Joel likes it to be done that way. But those two messages don't reconcile. And that's ultimately why the league fined him $100,000. I'm burying the lead. The lead here is that when the NBA investigated, they found legitimacy in Joel's left knee situation. So whether he plays back-to-backs, I don't think he will. They determined that this is not a case of them just trying to have their own program with their player for the sake of convenience, that it was necessary, and they just should have handled their messaging better.
I like your analysis, Sam, of thinking right now that the Clippers are in a better position than Philly could be because the Clippers have a little bit more financial freedom. So I'm going to kind of pin this towards Paul George. If Paul George was 1 star of 3 remaining with the Clippers or 1 star of 3 now on Philadelphia, what's a better situation for Paul George?
Well, I mean, this is probably not part of your calculus with your question, but my mind says LA because, the word situation indicates for me on court and off court. Paul grew up in the LA area. He really enjoyed playing there. Last night after the game, you see, his family members in George jerseys hugging him and talking to him on the court after the game. So sometimes we forget about that part. And when the Clippers were negotiating with him, I think they truly believed that desire to stay put was going to help them in negotiations, that he wouldn't want to truly leave. And obviously he did. So, but basketball wise, I think you're basically saying, would you rather hitch your wagon to Kawhi Leonard or Joel Embiid?
Yeah. At
this point, I'm probably going to say Joel, if just purely basketball. We've got I don't even, it's a crapshoot, Jay. Like Joel's stuff it's a decade,
Mm-hmm.
I wrote this the other day. I mean, the whole idea that being in business with him is a calculated risk, that was clear right out the gate. When Sam Hinkie, the former Sixers GM, famously drafts Joel, as one of the rewards of the process 10 years ago, they draft him 6 days after he had right foot surgery, and he ultimately misses his first 2 seasons. So that's about as drastic as it comes. Kawhi, both guys have physical things right now that make you wonder if their careers are going to get cut short. Joel is younger. So I'll go with him. And he's younger, and right now he's better when he's available.
Yeah. Your thoughts? You saw the Intuit Dome. It's brand new. It's supposedly all state of the art. What'd you see? What'd you like? What did you not like? What do you think of the Intuit Dome?
Man, I don't even know. Like, I want to be fair because I have this this guilty conscience that comes with, like, you just know. I mean, I like Steve Ballmer. I like kind of how he does his how he carries himself. It's exciting. It's passionate. It's intense. Like, objectively, we should all have people like that in our careers, our lives, and so that energy I like. So I have this sense of like guilt to be critical of like his his baby here, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But man, it was a weird experience. I've been there twice now because I went to media day as well, but this was different. Game day, it's I don't know how to break it down. Like, a little surreal. Now you've been there, right?
I have not been to the Intuit Dome yet.
Oh, you haven't. Okay.
No.
So here's what's wild for as a fellow Californian. Like, LA,
Yep.
Inglewood.
Yep.
Like, it is. I cannot. It's just a little bizarre to be cruising through Inglewood, which is still Inglewood in every sense, and then boom, there's like this spaceship, like in the middle of the neighborhood.
Yeah.
And so I'm the part where I'll be a little critical is it's a little bit uncomfortable. You have this $2 billion symbol of opulence and excess absolutely plopped in the middle of poverty and struggle. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
reminds me a little bit of when I was lucky enough to go. This is a hell of a parallel, but I'm going to make it anyway. When I was lucky enough to go with the Kings to India for their preseason games against the Pacers years ago, like the Taj Mahal, like the part they don't tell you is the Taj Mahal is similarly just placed, just surrounded by struggle and poverty. And that contrast really struck me then. So that's my first takeaway with Intuit, and also just the spatial component. They had to. It's a little sad. Like, they had to kick people out of their homes to and buy them out to get the thing done. So that part was that was tough. Like, you walk in and like there's literally a Roach Motel, for lack of a better way of putting it, like right next to the arena. Whereas you walk in the front doors and you glance to the left, you see like a 3-story motel with a balcony where if somebody went and paid $80 a night to stay there and sat on the balcony, they are overlooking the crowd that is walking into it in the type of like super, super tight spacing that it just strikes you. So that's all the critical stuff. If you just in a vacuum look at the building, there's all kinds of positives. I mean, it's the sight lines were great for the media. And I did love whatever they call the massive video board up top.
Yeah.
You felt like you were at Disneyland with the vibe. And I know, we can't go on forever about this. I could keep giving you details. One thing that cracked me up, Jay, you know how you're in school and it's like you're changing periods and the bell rings and you're freaking out because you got to get to the next class.
Yeah.
Steve Ballmer, I don't know if you've heard this. He literally installed a bell that tells you like the game is about to start or the game is about to start again. So if you're in the media room doing what we do,
Yeah.
you feel like you're going to get in trouble if you don't get back to your seat, and there's even like hype videos that are like, come on, let's go. The game's starting, like, so that part's cool. Like, he really wanted to focus on the game. The restaurants on the concourse are pretty like no frills. Cause the idea is like, and I didn't eat that food, but it's generally like get some calories in the fans, give them their sustenance, but get their ass back in the seat. You've heard about the toilets, same idea. Like, let people do their business quickly, get back to the game. So it's a lot of it. I mean, as a fan, a lot of interaction stuff on the video board that seemed fun. Again, the obvious one you got to highlight too, man. There's just a lot of empty seats. I mean,
Wow.
so, but to that point, I'll spin it positive. I think I walked out of there going, because one of the Clippers people told me, like, listen, like everything we're doing right now, like Steve is looking at it from a long view. It's 10, 20 years out.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's the mentality you have to have with the Clippers team and with their arena. But, right now you felt kind of bad for him. Like, man, all this work. And then, I mean, I'm talking a lot of empty seats.
Wow.
So, it was an interesting experience.
Well, I do want to ask you about the Clippers too, because they'll be here taking on the Kings Friday night. Sacramento's playing well, winners of 5 of 6. Clippers, I'm still kind of trying to figure them out. They've changed their team. We know that Kawhi's out. No Paul George. We talked about that. Westbrook is gone. What did you see with them? They've been a little up and down so far. What do you think about the Clippers when they come in here on Friday?
Yeah, I mean they've got some talent. Obviously, they can beat you. They're 4-4 now. They've had some good nights. They've had some bad nights. James Harden last night was off from a shooting standpoint. 5 of 15, 1 of 6 from 3. Norm Powell. I guess I'll focus on Norm for a second. If you go back to media day, which I was at for them at Intuit, kind of a under the radar spicy quote that didn't really get much traction nationally was Norm Powell was asked about Paul George's departure. And like there was a little bit more context here, but bottom line, like he called it addition by subtraction. And, he did explain that his point was that you had a lot of players like himself who wanted to take advantage of the additional opportunity and they were hungry to do that. And so, to your question, they've done that. Norm is playing really, really well. Had a great night last night, 26 points, shooting lights out. So they're potent. They're not truly contenders, again, in my opinion, unless Kawhi comes back and is actually himself for an extended stretch. But for a team like the Kings that is on a good run, obviously, and that learned the hard way last season why you just can't take any game for granted and every W matters no matter how ugly it might be. This is another one, just like the Toronto game, that you should be able to get at home, and that if you're not careful, you won't get, because the Clippers are certainly capable of beating them.
Yeah, you've seen the Kings a little bit too. I know you've been in and around our area. Obviously, you're bouncing around all over the place. But just every time you watch them, and anytime you see DeMar DeRozan with this team, whether it's fit or just the way he's playing, I'd be curious your take and what others are saying about the Kings with DeRozan.
Truthfully, I haven't talked to a ton of people about it other than kind of basic stuff. But man, my observations are it's just, I mean, I haven't studied the defensive tape or looked at the defensive numbers, but they're winning games, and he's just an incredibly productive player, and he's fitting in really, really well. I don't know who to give credit to for this tweet, that kind of mean-spirited but true tweet that made me laugh the other day. Somebody had indicated that, for the pundits that acted like Harrison Barnes and DeMar DeRozan were basically the same player, which I don't know if someone actually said that, but there was like a graphic that had that quote, and then it had, Harrison's current breakdown in San Antonio compared to DeMar's, and it's essentially double the production across the board. It's looking like a wonderful move and a really dynamic move. I mean, last night, and again, this is the norm. You're looking at that box going, like, I'm always curious, like, okay, because we've talked about how they have so many high usage players now, like which guy didn't get to eat last night, so to speak. And you look at the box, and more often than not so far, you're like, man, like they kind of all did. Like maybe Malik, you're shaving a little off the top from a number standpoint. But Domas is dishing, De'Aaron's doing his thing, DeMar and even Keegan. So no, it looks good.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're happy with what's going on right now. We're right in the beginning of this. It should be fun to see their growth and a lot of other things going on. What's coming up next for you in the Athletic? You said you wrote about, obviously, your situation down there. What else are you working on coming up?
I'm not. Let's see. What do we got next week? I mean, I might go to the Clippers game Friday. Next week, Man, you catch me off guard. I don't even know.
You got
I'm
that ref
home.
story coming out yet? The official story you've been talking
Oh,
about?
look at you just calling me out on the carpet. When is that ref story?
Well, you
Yeah.
referenced it a couple times.
I'm kidding. No, I probably should write it next week. I mean, my plan there, I wanted to kind of retabulate the numbers foul wise and see like I would feel more comfortable writing that story when the narrative is still on track, if that makes sense. Like the defense is truly back in the NBA. But yeah, I mean, that's actually, thank you, Jay. You're helping me plan my week.
Well, there you go. And you can add the stat that the Kings went from worst to first in free throw shooting. I mean, they're the benefit of maybe more calls, and DeMar DeRozan's a big part of it.
Yeah, I mean, although now you're killing the narrative because the narrative is there's less calls. Like,
oh, okay. Well, maybe that's the outlier.
It's maybe a little non-PC, but as one GM put it to me, the narrative is that it's prison ball is back. That you can beat people up. But yeah, I mean, truthfully, as I sit here in this LA hotel room, sleep deprived and ready to go home, I mean, what's ahead for me is getting my butt back to the home front for the entire week next week, which I'm looking forward to.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Sam, we look forward to seeing you out at a game soon. Keep up the great work. We encourage everybody to check out Sam's work at The Athletic. And Sam, we look forward to talking to you next Thursday.
Thanks, Jay. Be good, brother.
All right, thank you. That is Sam Amick from The Athletic. Again, all his appearances brought to you by your Jiffy Lube locations in the greater Sacramento area. Always love talking to Sam. When we come back, more on the Kings.